All right, so these are going to be the guidelines for solving linear equations. So sometimes you will see these things, sometimes you will not. But these important rules at the bottom, always. Okay, so let's begin. You're going to have a lot of writing, so make sure you pause as you watch the video and rewatch it if you need to, because I want to go fast to keep this video on the short side. Okay, so if you see parentheses, you will distribute the integer in front to each term inside of the parentheses. And distribute's just a fancy way of saying multiplication. So some examples, we have 2 parentheses x plus 3. This 2 is positive, so I'm going to multiply a positive 2 to x, which gives me 2x. And then to the second integer inside of the parentheses, 2 times this positive 3 is a positive 6. But make sure you still have a plus or a minus in between each of the integers, or in between each of the terms. Because, like, for example, if you have a negative 2, I'm going to distribute that. Negative 2 times x is a negative 2x. Negative 2 times this positive 3 becomes a minus 6. Okay, so remember, minus and plus, negative and minus are very interchangeable in math. Okay, next one we have is for combining like terms. So if the same type of term is on the same side of the equal bar, you will combine like terms. And combine is just a fancy way to say add. So, for example, if you have 2x plus 3 equals negative 5, on this equal bar here, my like terms are going to be this 3 and this 5. But they are not on the same side, so we will not combine like terms, okay? If I draw the equal bar on the next problem here, we have 2x, and then we have plus 3 minus 5. Those are like terms, right? Both of them are numbers without a variable attached. So I'm going to do some math. 3 minus 5 is negative 2. Everything else did not have a like term, so everything else gets brought down exactly the same. So that was a combining like term on the same side of that equal bar. Okay, so the next one is variable on one side, question mark. So what this means is if a variable is on both sides of an equal bar, you will add or subtract to move one of the variable terms on the other side, okay? So, for example, I draw my equal bar down my equal sign, and I have a 2x and I have a 4x. The variable's on both sides. So what I want to do is I want to move this 2x to the other side. Now, when we move something from one side to the other, you do the opposite sign. So because it was a positive 2x, I'm going to minus that 2x. Those eliminate. 3 is left. 4x minus 2x, 2x. So that's what happens when the variable's on opposite sides of that equal bar. Okay. Now, however, in this other one, this is going to be a no because these terms, these variable terms are on the same side. So that's going to be a combining like term thing. I can add these two to get 6x and everything else gets brought down. So this would be a combining like term. That's why that one doesn't work out. They're on the same side. Next, we have to isolate the variables. So this is where we're going to move the constant. So you add or subtract to move the constant. And the constant is the number that is with the variable but not attached. So, for example, draw my equal bar down this example here. 2 plus 3 equals 7. Now 7 is technically a constant, but we aren't going to be fiddling with that too much. This 3, however, is the constant because it's the number with the variable, but it's not attached to it. So in the second problem, draw my equal bar. Negative 5 is considered our constant that we care about because it's the number with the variable but not attached. Now 3 is still a constant, but we are not going to have to really move that around too much. The very last step is going to be to isolate the variable. Now notice, these two start the same because this should always be your last two steps. You will always see at least one of these, if not both. So you're going to isolate the variable, but you're going to move the coefficient. Had to do a little typo. It should be fixed when you guys get it. Now, In this one, the coefficient, you will multiply or divide to move it. And the coefficient is the number that is attached to the variable. So notice I'm using the same two examples. When I draw my equal bar, this 2 is considered the coefficient, not the x, the 2. Coefficient is just a number. In our second example, this 8 is considered the coefficient because this is the number attached to the variable. All right, last one. Important rules. We're not going to fill out the third one till much later. Number 1, what you do on one side, you do on the other. We'll talk about that more in class. Super duper importante. Number 2, if it's on the same side, you do the same sign. That's where that combining like terms things come in. Same side, same side. So I did 3 minus 5, and that's how I got that -2. Opposite sides, opposite signs. That's where this will come into play. And this one as well. And this one. These last 3 steps. Okay. Now, before we're done, because this is the end of the writing, notice that you only multiply at the very first step or very last step. Notice you only divide at the very last step. And then the rest in between is adding or subtracting. That's all that's happening, okay? So we're not doing anything crazy. We're not squaring. We're not rooting. We're just adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, which you have been doing for the longest. All right, have a good day.